Greetings, chosen one. You have been called upon not by chance, but by purpose. The world is watching, closer than you think, closer than they will ever admit. Some observe in awe, others in silence, but none can look away. You see, people are more invested in the lives of others than they are in their own. Sound familiar? It should. Someone, somewhere, is scrolling through your story like it's the most gripping saga they've ever encountered. They know every rise and fall, every plot twist and every moment of hesitation and triumph, even if they never tap like. Why? Because your authenticity unsettles them. Your progress is a mirror reflecting the chances they let slip away, the dreams they placed on hold, the courage they are still searching for. They are caught in the paradox of wanting your story to unfold and yet fearing what it might mean for their own. And yet, they never unsubscribe. Elon Musk is no exception to this grand phenomenon. Visionaries recognize visionaries. And in a world driven by innovation and risk, he knows that those who dare to defy gravity are the ones who will one day rewrite history. You, chosen one, are part of this narrative. Your journey, your resilience, your refusal to be ordinary. It is the very force that fuels the next great leap forward. So, step boldly. They are watching. But more importantly, the future is waiting. First of all, your presence compels introspection. Your genuineness turns mirrors in addition to heads. Something changes when you enter a place or present yourself completely. People take notice of you, not just because of your demeanor, but also because of the emotions you evoke in them. They are forced to face aspects of themselves they have been ignoring, as if you were flipping a secret switch. Perhaps they have suppressed a part of themselves to fit in, buried a dream, or never took a risk. Whatever it is difficult to ignore one's own reflection when one is standing next to someone who lives life without regret. The tension starts at this point. On the one hand, people respect you for your self-assurance, independence, and boldness in being who you are. It's motivating and captivating. However, that same realism also has an unsettling effect. It makes them uncomfortable because it brings to mind the masks they wear and the concessions they have made. All of a sudden, the justifications that seemed reasonable begin to seem flimsy. When someone shows them that their objectives are achievable, the excuses they offered themselves for not pursuing them don't stand up as well. Their responses are so conflicted because of that internal struggle. Some may publicly support you, seeing your development as evidence that they, too, can achieve freedom. Because your success exposes the holes in their own narrative, others will silently observe from the sidelines, divided between jealousy and admiration. Not because they don't care, but because admitting your progress involves facing their own stagnation. Some people may minimize your accomplishments or seem uninterested. The irony? They aren't even conscious of this internal battle half the time. They just know that you make them a bit more conscious of what they've been avoiding and a little restless. However, whether they applaud or condemn, their response is more about what your presence says about them than it is about you. In actuality, that mirror is truthful, because they secretly wonder what their lives may be like if they had the guts to embrace their own honesty. They continue to watch. Second, you dispel the appearance of homogeneity. By blending in, being cautious, and according to the rules society has given them, most individuals attempt to fit into a mold throughout their lives. It's simple, comfy, and predictable. However, that script begins to fall apart when you present yourself as who you really are. You turn into a living example that there is another way to live that doesn't need compromising your comfort level for others. And that's where the complications arise. The existing quo is challenged by your existence. The unwritten standards that everyone abides by, without question, Don't appear so inflexible all of a sudden. You pursue what makes you happy, speak what you mean, and dress how you want. No performance, no filter, and no diluted version of yourself are present. Furthermore, that independence is both alluring and intimidating, because a part of them respects your bravery while another part questions why they continue to play by outdated rules. It's what you stand for, not simply what you do. Your genuineness forces people to examine their own decisions and the masks they put on to blend in. Perhaps it's the work they detest but are unwilling to quit, the beliefs they accept to keep the peace, or the aspirations they've put on hold out of fear of failure. They are forced to face the unseen bonds they have ensnared themselves in after seeing your liberation. And that's an unsettling revelation. Their responses may be so varied because of this. In one moment, people are attracted to your energy and motivated by the way you take control of your area without asking for permission. The next, they're criticizing your decisions or casting doubt on your achievements because if you're able to live outside the lines, why can't they? And acknowledging that fear is the only thing preventing them from moving forward, a reality that most people aren't prepared to confront. As a result, they observe from a distance, conflicted between supporting you and hating what your independence reveals about them. One thing is for sure, though. Your genuineness has changed something inside of them, regardless of whether they adore or envy you. They realize deep down that you didn't simply shatter the mold. You demonstrated that they never needed one in the first place. So once that shift occurs, there's no turning back. Thirdly, people are afraid of things they don't comprehend. Humans are afraid of what they don't comprehend. Human nature is ingrained with it. Those who are still adhering to the norm get uneasy when someone deviates from it and doesn't follow the script. Not only does your genuineness strike out, but it also defies convention. Additionally, people are unsure about how to respond when they are unable to classify or anticipate you. They feel frightened by you because you embody everything they've been taught to avoid. Being different, taking chances, and not relying on acceptance to prove your value. At the same time, they respect the freedom you've discovered. They're uneasy about what you stand for, not because they don't like you. Without uttering a word, you question their doctrine. Just your presence raises questions they'd prefer not to address, like why they're looking for approval. Why do people hide aspects of themselves in order to blend in? Why do people adhere to norms that don't satisfy them? When people see you flourishing without such restrictions, they can't help but wonder about these hidden, unsaid inquiries. This is the point at which they become afraid, not of you, but of what your genuineness makes them face inside themselves. People like consistency because it gives them a sense of security. The truth that the lines were never genuine in the first place is revealed when someone crosses them. They were only convenient rules that people persuaded themselves they had to abide by. It's difficult to accept when others wonder why they ever followed such rules, when you don't. Admitting that you have been holding yourself back is more difficult than calling you too much or different. The catch is that interest often coexists with terror. Because a part of them longs for the freedom you've discovered, they are unable to turn away. They always keep an eye on everything, sometimes silently, sometimes critical. Their carefully constructed boundaries are eroded by your capacity to live fearlessly, and they secretly ponder what their lives would be like if they had the guts to follow suit. Your presence makes an impression, whether they realize it or not, since after seeing someone overcome fear, the reasons they used to hold themselves back no longer appear as convincing. Fourth, they feel a personal connection to your accomplishment. Not only does your success motivate others, but it also makes them uneasy. Your accomplishments make people reevaluate the narratives they have been telling themselves for years, not because they want for you to fail. They believed that achieving success required making sacrifices, giving up freedom for security, honesty for approbation, and passion for stability. Then you appeared, prospering on your own terms, and all of a sudden their well-crafted reasoning is no longer valid. It seems like a quiet challenge to their decisions every time you reach a milestone. Something deep inside them is stirred when they see you triumph without, according to the norms they have lived by their whole lives. It's more intimate than jealousy in the conventional sense. Your success makes them question if they made too many compromises along the road, settled too quickly, or played it too safe. And it's difficult to get rid of that question once it becomes ingrained. Their responses are thus seldom simple. Some will publicly support you, motivated by the evidence that you can achieve success without betraying yourself. Others will silently observe from the sidelines, uncertain whether to applaud your bravery or to be angry at the reflection of your achievement in their own life. Some people minimize your accomplishments, not because they don't think you're terrific, but rather because they would have to acknowledge that they had other options. The problem is that you are unrelated to their sentiments. You only showed them what was possible. You didn't take anything away from them. And it's a difficult reality to accept, particularly for those who have spent years thinking that compromise and conformity are the only ways to succeed. The story is rewritten by your path, demonstrating that you may be successful and genuine at the same time. And that insight may be both freeing and unnerving for certain people. This is the reason why individuals from your past observe your development with conflicted feelings, if you've ever wondered why. It's not just about what you've accomplished. It's also about what your success means. The ability to live your life as you see fit, without regret or consent. And no matter how silently they observe, they cannot deny that fact. Fifth, you draw attention to their unrealized potential. Your genuineness moves people's attention inward as well. People are forced to face the gap between who they are and who they might be when they see you living as who you really are. It shines on the aspects of them that they have hidden or disregarded, acting as a spotlight on their unrealized potential. They begin to question, what if I stopped keeping things to myself? What if I pursued the goals I've been putting on hold? What if I didn't have to worry about being judged? This insight is both energizing and unnerving. On the one hand, seeing another person reach their full potential affirms that more is achievable. It arouses that intense, agitated sensation, the conviction that they too possess something more that is just waiting to be let loose. That understanding, however, is accompanied by a sobering reality. Their own fear, uncertainty, and hesitancy are the only things preventing people from becoming their best selves. And the tension starts there. Because your achievement demonstrates what others haven't yet achieved, rather than because you are in competition with them, your development becomes a yardstick. It's about what you stand for, a version of yourself that they haven't yet had the guts to become, rather than what you own or have achieved. Every chance you take, every objective you accomplish, and every instance in which you remain true to who you are, reminds them of what they might do if they stopped limiting themselves. Their responses might be so conflicted because of this internal struggle. Some individuals will be really motivated, seeing your achievement as evidence that they can develop as well. People will see you from a distance, conflicted between supporting you and experiencing the pain of comparison. Because admitting your achievement makes it more difficult to overlook their own unrealized greatness. Some people may attempt to minimize your success, not because they don't perceive your potential. In actuality, however, their sentiments are not really related to you. They created the divide, not you. They couldn't have turned away from your genuineness. And regardless of whether people find you admirable, envious, or difficult to comprehend, one thing is for sure: something has been ignited in them by your presence. It's also difficult to extinguish once the spark is ignited. Sixth, you pose a danger because you are unpredictable. People want to categorize other people. Understanding is made simpler by boxes. Because it makes them feel in charge, predictability makes them feel at ease. They are aware of their position in relation to others, what to anticipate, and how to react. However, it throws people off balance when you show up as who you really are, defying expectations and fitting nicely into a category. All of a sudden, they are unable to foresee your next move, which makes them uncomfortable. It's unnerving, not just startling, that you can move differently. Their sense of order is challenged by the fact that you don't play by the rules they've been taught or look for acceptance. They are used to folks who play it safe, comply, and follow the same routines. But you don't hesitate to violate those patterns. Sometimes you're taking chances others wouldn't dare take, and other times you're succeeding in unexpected ways. Additionally, they have no control over their feelings toward you since they are unable to describe or classify you. One feels vulnerable as a result of this uncertainty. People use presumptions to get through social situations, and when those presumptions are incorrect, they are unclear of how to react. Do you pose a danger to their current situation? A reminder of their potential if they took more chances? Or just someone they like but don't understand? They are uneasy because of the uncertainty. It makes people reevaluate their convictions, decisions, and self-imposed boundaries. However, their uneasiness often shows out in subtle ways. They may minimize your accomplishments, critique your strategies, or write off your self-assurance as conceit. It's simpler to criticize what they don't comprehend than to face the prospect that they're holding themselves back. Not because they don't like you. In order to restore control and place you in a box that makes sense in their perspective, they feel the need to label you. However, by refusing to be defined, you make them confront the reality that their fear of crossing boundaries is the only thing preventing them from being free. And that insight is more disturbing than any erratic action you may ever do. Seventh, they are intimidated by your confidence, but they want it. Whether they acknowledge it or not, people are drawn to confident individuals because they are magnetic. The problem is that when your confidence is based on authenticity and isn't a facade, but rather a natural manifestation of who you are, it does more than just draw attention. It serves as a mirror to the fears that others attempt to conceal. Their self-doubt becomes louder, more obvious, and more difficult to ignore all of a sudden. And the tension starts there, because it embodies everything people desire. The ability to show up without worrying about being judged, to claim their abilities without undervaluing them, and to go through life without always doubting themselves. They respect your confidence. However, that awe is tinged with something more substantial: the weight of their own unsaid anxieties. They are reminded of the times they have lowered themselves to fit in, whenever they see you being true to who you are. Every chance you take causes them to reflect on the chances they've missed. They are forced to examine the ways in which they have confined themselves when you enter a place and take control of it without looking for approval. It might be difficult to understand the love-hate dynamic that is produced by this internal struggle. They are attracted to your enthusiasm in the hopes that they may get a glimpse of your self-assurance. Conversely, your confidence heightens their uncertainties and evokes emotions they would want to avoid. They don't detest you. Rather, they don't like how your presence makes their own inner conflicts more intense. They are thus torn between supporting you and being angry at the image you create. Some may encourage you, using your self-assurance as motivation to take charge of their own lives, because admitting your confidence implies facing their lack of it. Some may try to remove themselves or minimize your accomplishments, not because they think you're not deserving. The reality is, however, that their response reveals more about their connection with themselves than it does about you. Your confidence is the trigger, not the issue. It makes them wonder, why can't I believe in myself as much as they can? And no matter how hard they try, it's difficult to dismiss that question once it takes root. The eighth point is that your independence lessens their desire for approval. A rare form of power is independence, the kind that feels complete without praise. People are often shaken by the idea of thriving without asking for permission or acceptance. Most individuals are taught by society to gauge their value by looking at others, seeking likes, attention, and praise as evidence that they are sufficient. Then there is you going on, succeeding, and triumphing without waiting for approval from others. And something profound is stirred by that difference. Your independence is a subdued protest against the norms upon which they have based their identity. You move with the freedom of someone who doesn't need such responses to continue, whereas they're locked in the loop of questioning whether they're liked, fit in, or are good enough. And that freedom calls into question everything they believe. It causes them to wonder whether they've been holding themselves back for nothing, or if the acceptance they've been seeking is really worth it. It's difficult to challenge such ideas, however. Recognizing that external validation isn't necessary requires them to face their fear of what could occur if they give up on it. It entails questioning oneself. If no one is looking, who am I? And a lot of individuals avoid answering that question throughout their lives. However, it's easier said than done to face such anxieties. Selecting independence is taking a chance, facing failure, and embracing the prospect of being alone yourself. It means sacrificing the comfort of predictable results and the security of fitting in. And that jump seems too much for many. Therefore, individuals cling to their justifications because they provide a buffer against the unpleasantness of change, not because they believe them. That's why people respond so differently to your independence. By seeing your example as evidence that their aspirations are achievable, some will be motivated to break free themselves. Others will oppose you, trying to minimize your achievements or persuade themselves that your course is unrealistic. They embrace your freedom by acknowledging that their justifications are insufficient to keep them in place, not because they mistrust you. The 14th is that even when you're not around, your energy remains. There are some who enter a room and disappear. Others remain long after they have departed and the discussion has concluded. You are in the later group. It's because of what your presence evokes in people, not because of what you say or do. Your energy does more than simply take up space. It wakes something that has been buried behind habits, expectations, and boundaries that people have set for themselves. It operates like a spark when you present yourself as your true self, raw, unrepentant, and completely alive. It makes individuals think about the aspects of themselves they have suppressed, the aspirations they have delayed, the realities they have shied away from, and the emotions they have tempered in order to blend in. They briefly sense the pulse of those lost passions when they are in your presence. It's similar to getting a glimpse of the life somebody would lead if they weren't constrained by uncertainty, fear, or the desire for acceptance. And it's difficult to ignore once that sensation is evoked. However, there is a price for that enlightenment. The contrast. The difference between their present reality and the world they secretly long for is all they have left after you go. Your presence stays as a reminder of both what they haven't yet claimed and what is conceivable. They get tense as a result of this. On the one hand, they respect your independence and the way you live your life without limiting yourself to fit in with other people's expectations.